So last night, we just slept under the duvet. Nothing else, right? I woke up in the hotel bed with the puppy-eyed lad lying beside me. I still wanted to cling to a sliver of hope, so I asked him this. Propping his head up with one hand, he looked at me with an amused expression. Do you really think that's possible? Me? No, wasn't. So, I'm done for. I'm a screenwriter, and I've slept with the male lead of my TV series. Early morning, I sat wrapped in the duvet on the large hotel bed, staring blankly at the young man lying on the other side. He was sleeping on his stomach, the duvet covering everything below his waist, revealing the beautifully defined muscles of his back. I sighed helplessly, pressing my palm to my forehead, silently cursing alcohol for being such a menace. It happened like this. The night before was the cruise wrap party, but I skipped the wrap party to meet a young director instead. The young director, Peng Fei, had some talent. His family was reasonably well off, and he was decent looking. Most importantly, he fancied me. As a single 27-year-old woman, I thought it was about time I started dating. So, I ditched the cruise wrap party and went to meet Peng Fei. But just after we finished dinner, as we were about to head to the cinema, Ziren's call came through. I answered, and Ziren's impatient voice immediately filled my ear. Where are you? Are you out on a date with some bloke? Me. This Ziren happened to be the male lead of the series. I replied, What's wrong with me going on a date? I'm 27. My parents are starting to nag me about marriage. There was a pause on Ziren's end, and he fell silent. Peng Fei was still standing beside me, and I didn't want to keep him waiting. So I lowered my voice and said to Ziren, You enjoy the wrap party. I'm off on my date. If you disturb me again, I'll wring your neck. With that, I hung up and went to the cinema with Peng Fei. Even though I'd set my phone to silent, the screen kept lighting up again and again with his messages, which was starting to seriously get on my nerves. I tried to ignore it. But then Ziren sent a text. He said, Su Ranran, get back here now. The female lead is trying to sleep with me. I was genuinely terrified that Ziren and the female lead Jess Gossip would top the search rankings the next day. So I had no choice but to tell Peng Fei there was a family emergency and make a quick escape. I rushed to the hotel Ziren mentioned. Just as I arrived, I saw the female lead and her manager helping a drunk Ziren into the hotel. I was fuming. I stormed over, pushed the female lead aside, and pulled Ziren away from the manager. This female lead had played a supporting role in one of my scripts before, so she knew me. When she saw me, she backed down immediately. Supporting Ziren, I stepped to one side. Glaring at the female lead, I said, I hope this is the first and last time. I found the hotel room key in Ziren's pocket and took him back to his room. But drunk Ziren was like dead weight, clinging to me relentlessly. This 1.85 meters tall man was slumped all over me. He pinned me down on the bed, leaning close to my ear, calling my name over and over. Su Ranran? Ranran. What happened next was less than suitable for younger audiences. I went from resisting at first, to giving in, and finally drowning in his tenderness. When I woke up again, it was morning, and this was the situation. As I was silently berating myself for failing to hold the final line, Ziren slowly woke up. He opened his eyes. Seeing me sitting wrapped in the duet, looking utterly miserable, he didn't seem surprised. He frowned slightly, probably from a hangover headache. He sat up in bed. My face flushed crimson, and I started inching backwards. He glanced at me. Keep going and you'll fall off. I stopped. I looked at him. He looked at me. The atmosphere was so awkward it felt like the air had solidified. After what felt like an eternity, Ziren seemed about to say something. I beat him to it. Actually, last night we just took our clothes off, got under the duvet, and slept. Nothing else happened, right? Even though the clothes were off, I still wanted to cling to that last shred of hope. So I asked him this. Ziren leaned back against the headboard, looking at me with that same amused expression. He raised an eyebrow slightly. Do you really think that's possible? Me? No, it wasn't. So I thought, I'm done for. I pulled the duvet over my head, desperately not wanting to face this reality. Ziren got out of bed and said to me, "Wait for me a moment. I'm going to take a shower." With that, he headed into the ensuite bathroom. Hearing the sound of running water, I slowly peeked out from under the duvet. Wait for him to finish showering? Not a chance. While he was in the shower, I quickly got dressed, gathered my things and made a run for it. I didn't dare go back to my own place because I knew Ziren would come looking for me. So, with my bag and a body covered in telltale marks, I fled to my best friend's house. My hair was a mess, my clothes were crumpled. My friend, who had plenty of experience with men, immediately spotted the signs. Well, she said. You and that young director moved fast, didn't you? I gave her a look that was uglier than crying. I had to ditch my date halfway through last night because Ziren called me away. My friend knew Ziren. The two of them often bickered. Hearing his name, her mouth twitched. That Ziren really treats you like his personal assistant. How dare he summon you back even when you're on a date? Halfway through her rant, she noticed my expression wasn't right, probably connecting the dots between my current state and Ziren's summons not being for work. My friend swallowed hard, her voice trembling slightly. Don't tell me you and Ziren last night. Before she could finish, I threw myself into her arms and wailed. Ziren is 24 now, blessed with drop-dead gorgeous looks. Although he can't sing to save his life, he skyrocketed to fame a couple of years ago through a TV series, becoming a top idol. In the 2 years since, he starred in 2 more hit TV dramas and a record-breaking film, solidifying his status as a genuine A-lister. Of course, talented people often come with their quirks. For instance, this top idol's particular quirk is his lack of academic prowess. When I first met Ziren, he was only 17. Back then, a novel I was serializing online caught a director's eye. They wanted to adapt it into a web series, but the budget was tight. We couldn't afford established actors, so we had to scout for handsome amateurs online. After searching for over half a month and auditioning dozens of boys, Ziren, wearing a blue and white school uniform, walked into the office where the director and I were. He pushed the door open, scanned the room, and finally fixed his gaze on the director. He said, "I heard you have jobs here that pay." The director and I exchanged a look, both thinking this kid might be in the wrong place. But back then, Ziren had striking, handsome features. His eyes were deep and captivating. Dressed in that blue and white uniform, he was the living embodiment of a novel's male lead. At 17, Ziren's family wasn't poor. But for a fun-loving teenage boy, money was always tight. So, after seeing our crew's casting call for actors, he showed up, knowing absolutely nothing about acting. He sold himself for the fee of $5,000 per episode. That was his first time acting, and my first time as a screenwriter. On set, I felt a particular closeness to him. When he got chewed out by the director for a poor performance and retreated to a corner to sulk, I went over with 2 large oranges and told him about all the difficulties I faced as a new screenwriter, hoping to cheer him up. But this little brat not only perked up, he actually chuckled and turned to look at me. "You've really had it rough, haven't you?" That's when I knew this kid had a bit of a sharp tongue. Both being new to the entertainment industry, that's how we became acquainted. Being 3 years older, I naturally took on the older sister role. That web series became a minor hit. It also boosted his social media followers from 4 digits to 6. Later, when he landed another acting role, the other party handed him a thick stack of contracts. Without even glancing at them, he forwarded them straight to me. "Help me look these over, I don't understand them." After I reviewed them, I told him there weren't any major issues, but he should still read them himself. Turns out, the kid didn't even open the contracts before signing them. Later, when that series wrapped, he made a decent sum. He called me and said he'd treat me to a meal. Over dinner, I asked him, "Weren't you afraid I might cheat you?" He looked up at me, his eyes clear and bright. "Would you?" My heart clenched. Damn it, a good-looking sixth former truly is the ultimate. After these incidents, Ziren grew even more reliant on me. By the time he landed his 3rd acting role, my 2nd script wasn't ready yet, and I was financially a bit stretched. He simply waved his hand and transferred $50,000 into my account. I've seen other actors have agents and assistants. I'm afraid others might covet my looks or my money. So I'm giving you this opportunity. Come be my agent. And just like that, Alongside my screenwriting work, I also became Z-Ren's agent. Even later, as his popularity soared, and he got proper assistance and a formal agent, whenever I had time, I'd still be by his side. Several times, paparazzi caught us entering or leaving hotels together. His fans initially thought it was a scandal, but once they recognized it was me, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Fan A: "Oh, it's Sue Ranran. That's fine then." Fan B: "Sister Ranran must have been discussing the script with Arjeej in the hotel. Gossip sites. Stop stirring up trouble." Fan C: "Was Sister Ranran playing mahjong with Arjeej in the hotel? If you were short a player, you could have called me." Yes, that's right. Because Z-Ren and I were so close, his fans all saw me as his biological older sister. But we're not actually related by blood. I'd been aware of this before, and tried to keep some distance from Z-Ren. But it was clear Z-Ren himself didn't see me as a normal girl. Once, when we were traveling together, we couldn't get separate rooms, so he booked a twin room. While I was lying on my bed playing on my phone, he walked out wearing only trousers. I was mortified, my face burning. But the principle is, if the enemy doesn't move, I won't move either. I had to force myself to stay calm. He wandered around the room bare-chested, humming and rummaging through his things. Seeing he had no intention of putting a shirt on, I cleared my throat. I reminded him, "Aren't you afraid of catching a cold?" He turned to look at me, his expression suggesting he was looking at a complete idiot. "This is Sanya. Me. And it's August." Even though I was awkward enough to dig out a Barbie dream house with my toes. Seeing him so nonchalant made me feel that if I kept acting shy, it would seem strange. So from then on, I kept reminding myself to see him as a younger brother. I reminded myself so often that I eventually genuinely forgot. He was a fully grown, red-blooded man, unrelated to me by blood. The more natural our interactions had been before, the more awkward they were now. I hid at my best friend's house, not even daring to look at my phone. Luckily, I didn't have much work on recently. The script I'd signed for had already been submitted. So, I could comfortably lie low at my friend's place, doing nothing. Seeing me with my phone switched off, lying in bed using her tablet to binge-watch anime, my friend looked at me with a pained, exasperated expression. "So you slept with him once? Is that really worth you being this much of a coward?" My friend had a point. I'm 27. And I've had 3 or 4 relationships before. I've been there. Done that. If the person I'd woken up with that night had been someone else, I probably wouldn't be feeling this awkward. I might even have chatted openly with my friend about how good he was in bed. But that person just had to be Z-Ren. I lifted my head from the pillow and said to my friend, "But it's Z-Ren." My friend shrugged, unfazed. "So what if it's Z-Ren? Does he have one less organ, or one extra eye compared to other men?" An image of Z-Ren's face flashed in my mind. That feeling of utter, all-consuming awkwardness shot straight to my cerebral cortex again. I hugged the pillow, writhing on the bed like a maggot. It just can't be Z-Ren. It can't be him. During my self-imposed exile at my friend's place, Z-Ren's work schedule and movements continued to be updated online. Freshly wrapped from our drama, he jetted off south to film a variety show. An A-lister is an A-lister. Even if I deliberately tried to avoid news about him, as long as I had an internet connection, updates about him popped up on their own. Seeing a Weibo hot search notification appear, I couldn't help but click on it. It was Z-Ren updating his own Weibo. He'd posted a selfie taken in a car. Wearing a black hoodie and a face mask, only his beautiful eyes were visible. Even without makeup, his looks were still absolutely on point. The comments were filled with his little fans gushing praise. Under normal circumstances, if I saw him post a selfie, I'd first check the photo for any flaws. As his part-time agent, I had to be responsible for his public image. But now, looking at his selfie, my thoughts had somehow shifted. I stared blankly for a long time. 3 words slowly forming in my mind. So handsome. Yes. Before, seeing Z-Ren as a younger brother, I'd overlooked his appearance. Now, detached from that original role, looking at him again, that face of his really could make someone's heart flutter. As if possessed, I typed his name into the video platform. Immediately, dozens of fan-made compilation videos popped up. I casually scrolled through a few. I found one titled Z-Ren's Gaze of Tender Destruction. How far can you make it? The fan had edited together clips of Z-Ren smiling gently. Set to music, it was truly something that could make you fall at first sight. But I also noticed something. In every single clip in this video, Z-Ren was smiling at me. For example, the first clip showed him half-turned from the camera, sitting on a variety show set, dressed in a black suit. When he smiled, his eyes sparkled as if filled with starlight. Back then, he was filming that variety show. The host had asked an inappropriate question, and his expression had darkened. I was standing off camera and pulled a funny face at him. He smiled at me, and that moment was captured. Then there was the third clip. Him in a white shirt, standing in a classroom. A girl stood in front of him, straightening his shirt collar. He was looking down at the girl, smiling with gentle eyes. If I remembered correctly, that was on the set of a campus romance drama. During a break, I went over to fix his clothes, chattering at him about how he'd messed up his lines earlier. Instead of getting annoyed, he just looked at me and smiled. At the time, I thought he was just being stubborn, like a rebellious son refusing to listen. But seeing it now in this video, I never realized his gaze had been that gentle back then. Goodness, what is happening to the world? Afraid I might succumb too, I quickly turned off the tablet. I lay in bed forcing myself to sleep, but the moment I closed my eyes, my mind was filled with images from that night. Z-Ren leaning close to my ear, calling my name over and over. Just the memory made my cheeks burn. Feeling my heartbeat accelerate, I sat up immediately. I silently recited Amitabha Buddha several times, trying to clear my mind and curb desire, to stop fantasizing about such illusory things. On the 9th day of my sanctuary at my friend's, my mum called her. Because I'd been busy writing my script before, I hadn't gone home for the Mid-Autumn Festival. My mum had lectured me for ages, and I promised them I'd go home once the script was finished. But after finishing it, I ended up with Z-Ren. All I could think about was switching off my phone to hide from Z-Ren, and I completely forgot to explain things to my mum. With my mum ranting on the other end of the line, I had to pack and go home. My parents live in a neighboring city. I bought a high-speed rail ticket back. It was already around 8 in the evening by the time I got home. The neighbors were cooking. The hallway was filled with the smell of food. I stood at the door and rang the bell. I planned to give my parents a big hug the moment they opened the door. The door opened. I was just about to lunge forward, when I saw a face I absolutely did not want to see. My open-armed, ready-to-hug pose froze mid-air. I pulled my arms back and turned resolutely. Sorry to bother you. Yes, the person who opened the door was none other than Z-Ren. He was wearing casual home clothes and slippers, standing by the door. He looked utterly at home, as if this were his own place. He didn't say anything, just leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed, looking at me with amusement. I had just turned to leave when my parents heard my voice. Then my mum's lecturing tone carried over. You, since you're here, hurry up and get inside. Dawdling like that, is coming home such an ordeal for you? Me. I clenched my fists. My parents were here. I couldn't act strangely. I turned back, meeting Z-Ren's smiling eyes. Smile. Smile. What's there to smile about? I swear, I really wanted to rush over and punch this bloke. But Z-Ren seemed to read my intention. He just glanced at me, then turned and walked back into the flat. I walked in, put my bag down, and changed into slippers, only to see Z-Ren sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed, watching telly. My mum was busy in the kitchen, my dad in the study. No one was paying attention to us. Perfect. The opportunity had arrived. I walked over and looked at Z-Ren. What are you doing at my house? Z-Ren held the remote, looked up at me briefly and didn't answer. Me. For heaven's sake. I stepped forward, trying to snatch the remote from his hand. But the moment I reached out, he switched it to his other hand. I grabbed, he dodged. In this back and forth, I leaned forward. Before I knew it, I toppled straight onto him. Z-Ren had been holding the remote with his arms outstretched to keep it away from me. Now that I'd fallen into his lap, it looked as if he were holding me. My body stiffened. Before I could react, Z-Ren chuckled softly by my ear. Well, someone's being forward, isn't she? All the blood in my body seemed to rush in reverse. The ambiguity from that night surfaced once more. Just then, my mum came out of the kitchen carrying a dish. Seeing us like this, she merely glanced over and said, "Grown adults, still roughhousing like children. What sort of behavior is that?" I immediately pushed myself up and stood, kicked Ziren in annoyance, then ran back to my room. Maybe I was seeing things, but the look in Ziren's eyes just then, it seemed somewhat fond. I returned to my room, closed the door, and finally let out a sigh of relief. After hiding from Ziren for so many days, I never expected to run into him here, of all places. I flopped onto my bed and texted my friend for help. "Babe, Ziren is at my house. What do I do?" My friend replied, "Oh, meeting the parents, eh?" Me? Meet my foot. I'm dying of awkwardness here. My parents don't know about that thing with him. My friend texted back, "Su Ranran, you're an adult. The best way to face fear is to head straight into it." But I'm embarrassed. My friend was firm. As long as you're not embarrassed, it's the other person who should feel awkward. I thought about it, and she was right. I had just finished texting my friend when my mum started lecturing again, knocking on my bedroom door. "You come home and immediately hide in your room. Can't even be bothered to help out a bit. Look at little Z. So diligent, he even knows to help me serve the rice." My mum dragged me out of my room. Ziren and my dad were already seated at the table. I walked over. Ziren sat to the left of my dad, so I sat to my dad's right. That way, when my mum sat next to me, she'd form a barrier between Ziren and me. Ziren glanced at me, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Su Ranran, what are you hiding from? It's not like I'm going to eat you, am I?" Ziren deliberately emphasized the word eat. To my parents, it sounded perfectly normal, but associated with what happened before, it immediately made me choke on my own saliva. I shot him an annoyed glare. That entire meal, I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles, keeping my head down and shoveling rice into my mouth, avoiding any eye contact with Ziren at all costs. In contrast to my tension, Ziren truly acted like this was his own home, chatting away animatedly with my parents. My mum even gave him all the chicken wings from the plate, my favorite. Looking at the wings in his bowl, I felt such resentment. Ziren didn't have a good relationship with his own family. His parents were divorced and had both remarried. Although the allowance they gave him was much higher than most kids his age got, he received zero companionship. When Ziren was filming his first series, it happened to be New Year's Eve. Because filming wrapped early that day, everyone went their separate ways to celebrate. I was discussing the script with the director, so I left late. When I came out, I saw Ziren sitting alone outside, looking up at the sky. I could see his loneliness. Everyone else was rushing home to celebrate the new year with family, and he was just sitting there. He was only 17 then. Me, a 20-year-old big sister, it was only natural to look out for him a bit more. So, I took the initiative and invited him to come home with me for New Year's. But he seemed reluctant to intrude. After thinking for a moment, he refused. "It's okay. I'm used to spending it alone." With that, he got up to leave. On that cold winter night, under the dim streetlights, the lanky teenager walked away looking utterly forlorn. At that moment, I superimposed him onto the male lead from my script. Seeing him walk away so despondently, I felt strongly that I had to reach out to him. So I jogged to catch up with him. I jumped up and hooked my arm around his neck, saying, "Come on. My family made too many dumplings. If you don't eat them, the leftovers will just go to the dog." 17-year-old Ziren was already 1.8 meters tall, while I was, at best, 1.6 meters. With my arm around his neck, he had to bend over. Hearing what I said, he let out a displeased chick. "So you invite me to your place for the holiday, and I get the dumplings the dog didn't want? I'm not that cruel. It's the ones you don't eat that go to the dog. Isn't that the same thing?" Even though his mouth was still sharp, he didn't refuse the offer to come to my place for New Year's anymore. On the way, I explained the situation to my parents. My parents are good-natured, warm-hearted towards everyone. Hearing that a 17-year-old kid was spending New Year's alone, they prepared extra. During the meal, my mum and I bickered, and my dad played peacemaker. Ziren sat holding his bowl, watching. He smiled and smiled, until his eyes grew red. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. Even the most sharp-tongued kid has a vulnerable heart. Perhaps that gesture of bringing him home for the new year inadvertently touched something in him. The previously aloof Ziren, who kept everyone at arm's length on set, began slowly moving closer to me. And as for coming to my house, once he came the first time, there was a second. Eventually, whenever there was a holiday, he'd come over to my place whenever he had time. He was incredibly sweet-talking in front of my parents, and coupled with his celebrity status, my parents practically treated him like their own son. My mum even took him along when she went grocery shopping. She'd tell everyone this young man spending the holiday at their house was a star. Once they got surrounded by people in the neighborhood. As I happened to pass by, an auntie asked my mum, "This young lad, is he Ranran's boyfriend?" My mum immediately replied, "Don't talk nonsense. Our Su Ranran isn't good enough for Ziren." Me. Finally, the meal was over. I excused myself by saying I still had work to do and retreated to my room. Not long after I returned to my room, Ziren simply opened my bedroom door from outside. I was lying on my bed. Hearing the door open, I turned to look. I saw Ziren standing at the doorway, holding a plate of fruit. I jolted up from the bed, immediately on guard. I clutched the duvet and stared at him. "Why did you just come in without knocking?" Ziren swaggered in, placed the fruit plate on the desk, and glanced at me. "You used to walk into my room without knocking too, didn't you?" Me. I was speechless for a moment, but I felt I couldn't lose the upper hand in terms of attitude. After thinking, I said, "What if I'd been changing clothes just now?" Who knew that upon hearing this? He chuckled. He turned and leaned against my desk, crossing his arms and tilting his head to look at me. His gaze swept over me from head to toe. "What's the big deal?" he said. "I've already seen everything worth seeing, haven't I?" Whoosh! My face instantly flushed crimson. I grabbed a pillow from the head of the bed and threw it at him. Ziren caught it with one hand. Looking at his smug expression, I felt both angry and flustered. But then my friend's words suddenly flashed through my mind. "As long as you're not embarrassed, it's the other person who should feel awkward." I paused, looked up at Ziren, and suddenly had a realization. Even if we'd slept together, Ziren was still Ziren. That same cheeky kid who'd been following me around since he was 17. I was the older sister after all. The more awkward I acted, the more awkward the situation would become. I had an epiphany. I threw off the duvet, lay on my side on the bed, propping my head up with one hand, striking what I thought was a seductive pose. "Well, speak up. What do you want?" I went from shy and awkward to bold and composed in just a few seconds. Ziren seemed a bit thrown. He stared blankly for a moment before saying, "Why have you been avoiding me?" Avoiding? I raised an eyebrow. I was worried you'd feel awkward. Actually, I was the one afraid of awkwardness. But right now, I had to project confidence. The neckline of my top was a bit loose. Lying on my side, it slipped down a little. I gave Ziren a flirtatious look. "We're all adults. These things are quite common." "Common?" Ziren's voice suddenly rose and his expression darkened. He narrowed his eyes, his gaze sharp and stormy. "You think something like that is common?" I didn't know when it happened, but this kid 3 years younger than me, who couldn't even read a contract properly, had suddenly developed such a powerful aura. His question made me stutter. I swallowed and tried to stay calm. "Yeah, we're all adults, aren't we? Besides, people in the arts. This sort of thing isn't that unusual, is it?" Ziren didn't speak. He stood there, his face frighteningly dark. I didn't know why his expression had turned so ugly. Could it be that he felt ashamed to be associated with me like this? Recalling how he'd never seen me as a proper girl before, I thought that was possible. So, I made myself appear even more nonchalant. "You're 24 now. Surely you're not still hung up on this, are you? Or was it your first time?" Upon hearing this, Ziren let out a cold snort. "Of course not." With that, he turned and walked out. Seeing him leave, I asked, "Where are you going?" He snapped, "Home." As soon as he finished speaking, he left my room, slamming the door shut with a loud bang. A small poster hanging behind the door fell down from the force. Looking at the fallen poster on the floor, I felt completely baffled. What's with this bloody kid throwing such a tantrum all of a sudden? After spending the Mid-Autumn Festival with my parents, I returned to the city where I work. Ziren had always had a habit. After finishing filming for a series, he would take a break for a while. So, after he left my parents' house, I hadn't heard any news from him. I felt restless. Several times I opened his WeChat chat window, wanting to send him something, but I held back in the end. What would I even say? Hey, you did pretty well that night. Want to do it again? The very thought felt utterly sinful. When I saw Ziren's fans online praising him as an ascetic, impenetrable wall of a man, I felt inexplicably guilty. Ziren's aloofness towards women wasn't just a public persona. He'd been like that ever since I'd known him. He was blunt, never sparing a girl's feelings. A female actor who'd worked with him before told me, if he weren't so good-looking, he'd have been beaten to death long ago. Not only was his mouth sharp, but he also actively distanced himself from those actresses. Kiss scenes were done with camera angles whenever possible. If not, he'd get them done in one take. If any actress tried to create dating rumors with him, he'd avoid it entirely. He was once called the male actor who made his female fans feel most at ease. But with me, he was completely different. So his fans, like him, never really saw me as a normal girl. But that was before. Now that this had happened, I felt like I'd let his fans down. I rested for about a month. During that time, I could only get news about Ziren from the social media posts of mutual friends. In one photo, Ziren was lazily leaning on a sofa with a guitar, a faint smile in his eyes, looking particularly captivating. I thought this little brat might be unhappy because of what happened with me. But it seems I overthought it. Another post was by a mutual friend of Ziren and me, a very talented original singer named Lu Wei. I'd written lyrics for him before, and we were quite familiar. So, I left a few comments, and Lu Wei started chatting with me in the comments section. Just as we were chatting animatedly, I saw Ziren had also commented. He wrote, Me. What on earth did Hampf mean? Lu Wei also sensed something was off and privately messaged me. What's up with Ziren? I couldn't very well tell Lu Wei that Ziren was acting this way, because I slept with him. I could only reply, he might be on his period or something. Recently, I didn't know how to face Ziren. As long as he didn't contact me, I could just keep hiding. But you can run. You just can't hide forever. Towards the end of October, a female actor's birthday came up. That actress was Lee Lilly, the female lead from my very first script. Although she was only considered a third or fourth tier actress now, she was a very good friend to both me and Ziren. So, she invited me to her birthday party. When I received her invitation, my mind raced a bit, and I asked, will Ziren be there? In previous years, I'd always gone with Ziren. My asking this now made Lily sense something was wrong. She asked, did you and Ziren have a fight? Before I could reply, she added, oh, well, couples fight and make up, right? Sis, why don't you just invite Ziren along? My friend opened a KTV place, very private. He can come hang out too. Couples fight and make up. Was that phrase even appropriate here? After finishing my chat with Lee Lilly, I clicked on Ziren's chat window again. Invite him? Or not? I hesitated for a long time without deciding, but my finger accidentally tapped his profile picture. The message page displayed. I patted Ziren on his big head, me. A massive social disaster. Immediately after, Ziren sent a single question mark. I thought about it, decisively set my phone to silent, and tossed it aside. The next morning when I got up and picked up my phone, I saw Ziren had sent me over a dozen messages. Something up? Why did you pat me? You disturb me and then run off. Surenren, what the hell do you want? You know you woke me up, right? I'm giving you 5 minutes. Reply to me now, or I'll kill you. The last message was sent at 2:30 a.m. Looking at the screen full of messages, I silently tapped mute notifications. During work that day, I was distracted frequently. The company's new script required a meeting. When the discussion turned to the love scene between the male and female leads, my mind uncontrollably flashed back to that night's events. My face slowly turned red and hot. A colleague sitting next to me saw my flushed face and teased me directly. No way, sis Ranran. You're 27. And you're blushing over a discussion of a love scene. Once she said that, everyone looked over. Seeing my bright red face, they all burst out laughing. Lee Lily's birthday party mostly invited familiar faces. Lee Lily asked me to invite Z-Ren, but I didn't. Plus, I checked Z-Ren's recent schedule. He was still filming a variety show in another province today. There was no way he could make it back. So, I walked into the private room with complete confidence. When Lee Lily saw me come in alone, she pulled me aside. "Sis Ranran, where's Z-Ren?" "Me. He said he's busy." Lee Lily frowned slightly, clearly not believing it. But she was closer to me. Seeing I didn't want to talk about Z-Ren further, she didn't press. Recently, I had a lot on my mind. About Z-Ren and me, I'd only told my best friend. Keeping too many things bottled up required finding an outlet. Today at Lee Lily's birthday, it was all familiar faces. I could grab anyone and chat for half an hour. The more I talked, the more I wanted to drink. But my alcohol tolerance was only so-so. After a while, I was done for. I went to the loo for a bit, feeling slightly more sober when I came out. But the moment I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw a familiar figure. Black t-shirt, black baseball cap, looking both aesthetically cool and sharp. I couldn't help but take a longer look. An image of Z-Ren's face flashing in my mind. Our Z-Ren would look really cool dressed like that. Wait. Hour? I think my brain was getting fuzzy. My steps were unsteady, so I leaned against the wall and started inching my way out. But that person suddenly spoke. He let out a cold snort. "Didn't you claim to have a cast-iron liver?" That voice. It was Z-Ren. Leaning against the wall, I turned my head. The alcohol was hitting me. My vision was already blurry, so I could only squint at him. Z-Ren was leaning against the wall, looking at me with an indifferent expression. "What? Don't recognize me anymore?" I frowned. "What are you doing here?" My hand was propped against the wall. As I asked, my hand slipped. My whole body lurched forward. Z-Ren's arm shot out, grabbing my shoulder and pulling me towards him. I'd downed quite a bit of alcohol earlier. My consciousness was already scattered. So, being pulled into his embrace, I forgot to resist. He was a good head taller than me. Trapped in his arms, my face was buried against his chest. It felt a bit stuffy. So I tilted my head back to look up at him. Perhaps my drunken gaze was too lecherous. He glanced at me. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he raised his other hand to cover my eyes. "What are you doing?" I tried to pull his hand away. But drunk, my body was limp with no strength at all. Using all my might to struggle, I just ended up squirming a bit in his arms. Z-Ren tightened the arm around my shoulder slightly. His voice sounded in my ear, low and magnetic. "Don't move." Z-Ren's voice had suddenly become extremely gentle. I was stunned for a second but still said, "I don't wanna." "Be good. You can't drink anymore. Let's go home, all right?" Although Z-Ren was speaking to me in a very gentle tone, I could feel he was already steering me slowly towards the exit. That's when I remembered I'd been avoiding him recently. If he took me out of here, all my efforts would be for nothing. So, I mustered every ounce of strength to struggle. The power of a drunken tantrum is formidable. Even though I couldn't break free from Z-Ren, he also couldn't manage to get me out. Z-Ren couldn't hold me steady with just one hand, so he wrapped one arm around my waist. With his other hand, he lifted my chin, forcing me to look at him. "Su Ran." His voice suddenly turned stern. "Home. Now." Looking at Z-Ren's face so close to mine, for some reason, I remembered a few years ago. When he was only 19, his face still youthful, not used to wearing makeup. Back then, he wasn't that famous yet. When attending some events, no one did his makeup. I'd hold his face and do it for him. At that time, I just saw him as a younger brother. So, I'd pinch and squeeze his face into all sorts of shapes. I never thought anything of it. But the 19-year-old him, his face would flush instantly. The tips of his ears would turn so red, they looked like they were about to bleed. I'd hold his chin, make him look up, and carefully trace the shape of his lips with a tinted balm. When I finished and looked up, I'd meet his gaze. The young man's face was a complete, flustered red. I'd purse my lips into a smile and give his cheek a pinch. Such a good boy. But later, Z-Ren grew from an obedient little brother into a full-fledged troublemaker. He never let me pinch his face randomly again. Those memories from before flooded back at this moment. Fueled by Dutch courage, a mischievous idea suddenly popped into my head. I squinted, gave a silly giggle, then reached out and pinched Ziren's cheek. Such a naughty boy. Ziren's body stiffened. He sighed, his voice softening again. Ranran, you're drunk. I huffed. May not. As soon as I spoke, I saw someone walk out of a private room. I tilted my head to look. I knew this person, so I waved. Hey mate, wanna keep drinking? Before the man could speak, Ziren shot him a glare. The man recognized Ziren and backed down immediately. Shuffling back into the room, he mumbled, Next time, next time. Seeing him go back, I thought about following him. But the next second, Ziren lowered his head. Our heads were close, neck to neck. He tilted his head slightly and gently bit my earlobe. He bit down first, then his mouth worked over it, his tongue even giving a little flick. Like an electric shock, I instantly held my breath, my fingers curling almost imperceptibly. In short, because of his actions, what little consciousness I had left almost completely scattered. My legs went weak, and my whole body went limp, collapsing against him. Ziren reached out and stroked my head, saying to me, Ranran, be good. Let's go home. The next time I became aware, it was already early morning. I was lying in Ziren's bed, with Ziren himself lying beside me. Though I was under the duvet, he was on top of it. I was wrapped up in the duvet like a big rice dumpling. Ziren's arm was draped across my stomach. Even though I had been unconscious while drunk, now that I was sober, I could still remember what happened last night. So, waking up now and seeing him lying next to me didn't shock me. He had changed into a white t-shirt, his hair falling softly. Asleep, he lacked his usual keep-your-distance aura and looked gentle and soft. We'd known each other for 7 years now. Sleeping in the same bed wasn't a first, or even a second occurrence. I remembered once we were filming in a small town in Yunnan. We only arrived at our destination late at night. The hotel bookings weren't sorted either. There were 7 of us, with only 4 rooms. Among the 7, including me, there were only 2 girls. So, I was supposed to share a room with the other girl. Ziren was a light sleeper, and to let him rest properly, we decided to give him a room to himself. The remaining 4 would share 2 rooms. The plan was fine, but then something unexpected happened in the middle of the night. The girl I was sharing with was usually soft-spoken. No one knew she actually sleepwalked. In the dead of night, while I was sound asleep, she crawled into my bed. She clung to me like I was a teddy bear. I jolted awake immediately and couldn't get back to sleep after that. I really wasn't comfortable with physical contact from people I wasn't close to. But seeing the girl's tired face, I couldn't bring myself to wake her up. We had filming the next day. I wouldn't last without sleep. So, I went and knocked on Ziren's door. Ziren was in a foul mood when woken up. He opened the door, saw me standing there, and was taken aback. What's wrong? A bit sheepish, I said. Ziren, can I crash in your room for the night? Ziren let me in. After I explained the situation, he looked exasperated. Ranran, you couldn't sleep because a girl was clinging to you. So you come to my room wanting to sleep with me? He seemed genuinely baffled. Aren't you afraid I might cling to you too? By the time Ziren said this, I had already pulled back the duvet and gotten into bed. I said, What's our relationship? I trust you. You wouldn't try anything on me. As I spoke, I patted the other side of the bed. It's late. Time to sleep. Heaven is my witness, at that time I truly believe Ziren and I shared nothing but pure comradely affection. Plus, I was wearing full-length pajamas, the bed was big, and there was a pillow between us. Nothing was going to happen. I was completely at ease, while Ziren was the one acting all awkward, like a blushing maiden. I slept soundly that night. At the next morning, I found Ziren sitting on the sofa with dark circles under his eyes, hugging a pillow with the look of a resentful wife. I stretched comfortably. Seeing Ziren's resentful expression, I asked, What's wrong? Ziren glared at me. You were snoring, grinding your teeth, and talking in your sleep last night. I couldn't sleep. I hadn't known Ziren was such a light sleeper. So seeing him so sleep-deprived, I felt quite guilty. For the rest of that shoot, I practically waited on him hand and foot to make up for it. On the second night, the hotel still had no spare rooms. Worried Ziren wouldn't sleep well again, I considered squeezing in with someone else, or even sleeping on the floor. But the moment I suggested it, Z-Ren's face darkened. Don't you dare! I couldn't understand Z-Ren's logic. Sharing a room with him disturbed his sleep, but he wouldn't let me share with anyone else either. And later, after asking around, I confirmed that I absolutely do not snore, grind my teeth or talk in my sleep. Looking at Z-Ren lying beside me now, and thinking about recent events, then recalling that past incident, a sudden thought flashed through my mind. Could it be? This kid had improper thoughts about me, even back then. The moment this idea popped up, I immediately shook my head to dismiss it. Impossible. No way. Looking at the still sleeping Z-Ren before me, I suddenly felt guilty. So, I carefully turned my back to him and started inching my way out. Wrapped in the duvet, I wriggled like a worm. I had just managed to move a little when a pair of arms suddenly reached out from behind and pulled me back. Z-Ren's voice sounded. Don't move. I'm still really tired. My body instantly went rigid. My eyes stared straight ahead without blinking. Even my breathing grew tense. I don't know how long this lasted. Thinking Z-Ren behind me had fallen back asleep, I tried inching away again. But the moment I moved, Z-Ren spoke. Uncomfortable? I forced a dry laugh and started lying. I need the loo. Z-Ren was silent for a few seconds before loosening his grip to let me go. The moment Z-Ren let go, I felt like I'd broken free from shackles. I threw off the duvet and ran out of the room. Fled in disarray would be an apt description. Only when I reached the bathroom did I finally let out a sigh of relief. I splashed my face with cold water, looked up and was stunned again. I wasn't wearing my own clothes but had changed into a white nightdress. I had no memory of this. Z-Ren lived alone. Who else but Z-Ren could have changed me? I looked around the bathroom for my clothes and finally found them in the washing machine. Great. I'd thrown up all over myself last night. Those clothes had already been washed once, but they still looked and smelled like pickled mustard greens, wrinkled and unpleasant. I dawdled in the bathroom for ages before coming out. Thinking Z-Ren was still asleep, I planned to make a run for it like last time. But the moment I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw Z-Ren busy in the kitchen. He was wearing a white t-shirt and grey, loose-fitting trousers, looking utterly harmless. He turned around, saw me, glanced over and said gently, "Done? Get ready for breakfast." I let out a dry laugh. I'm not hungry. My mum said not to eat at other people's houses casually. I should head home. Before I could finish speaking, the previously harmless-looking Z-Ren suddenly picked up a kitchen knife. Thwack! He slammed it into the chopping board, then shot me a glare. He didn't say a word, but I knew exactly what he meant. If you dare leave, you're next. I caved. I obediently sat down at the dining table, not daring to make a peep. Z-Ren didn't speak either. He brought the cooked porridge over and placed it in front of me, his tone exceptionally detached. Eat. He set the bowl down and turned away. This manner of serving food somehow made me feel like I was being fed like a pig. As I pulled the bowl towards me, I muttered, "You're acting like you're feeding a pig." Z-Ren was pouring water by the dining table. Hearing me, he glanced over and chuckled softly. Yeah, the pig I raised myself ended up trampling all over my cabbage. Me. The mouthful of porridge I just managed to swallow sprayed right out. I quickly grabbed some tissues to wipe my mouth, my face burning with embarrassment. Trying to sound composed, I said, "Well, I planted the tree. Isn't it fair for me to enjoy the shade?" When I first met Z-Ren, he was just a snot-nosed kid. A lot of the values and knowledge he has now are thanks to me. So, saying I planted the tree wasn't exactly wrong. Z-Ren looked at me but didn't speak. However, I could tell from his eyes. This little brat was in a rather good mood right now. I silently breathed a sigh of relief, banishing some messy thoughts from my mind. Z-Ren sat opposite me, eating quietly. Even at 17 or 18, he hadn't been much of a talker. Entering the entertainment industry in recent years had made him even more taciturn. With people he wasn't close to, he could go a whole day without saying a word. Usually, I was the one keeping the conversation going. But since that incident, things between Z-Ren and me had been awkward. I was terrified of saying the wrong thing, so I just kept my head down and focused on eating. While eating, Several messages suddenly popped up on my phone lying on the table. They were from the young director Peng Fei, who fancied me. I put down my chopsticks, picked up my phone, and replied to him. Peng Fei had shared a behind-the-scenes clip from their shoot, showing a few of the main actors doing a silly dance. He said, "Look at the morning energy of the young ones." I wouldn't be able to keep up. Being alone with Ziren was just too awkward. Having a message like this to lighten the mood, I couldn't help but chuckle. I laughed while typing a reply. Suddenly, Ziren, sitting across from me, looked up. "Who is it?" I kept typing as I replied, "A friend." "I didn't know you had so many friends." After sending the message, I put my phone down. The moment I lifted my gaze, I met Ziren's eyes. Judging by years of experience, this little brat was currently in a bad mood. I cleared my throat and said, "Well, I am a 27-year-old adult. Having a wide social circle is pretty normal." Ziren snorted coldly. "Be careful not to get scammed." Me. I was instantly annoyed. What was with this kid? There were so many actresses and models around him, secretly trying to get close, using work as an excuse for physical contact. I never said anything. How come now that I'm making a friend, he has an opinion? I clenched my fists, indignant. He's young and accomplished, has already directed several films, graduated from a top university, and is really gentle. Not like you, who only knows how to annoy me all day. Only after I finished speaking did I realize with a jolt. I had only said it was a friend. But with that little speech, I basically confirmed who the man I was chatting with was. Ziren knew about my date with Peng Fei last time. Ziren and Peng Fei had been in contact before. Peng Fei wanted to invite Ziren to star in his film, but Ziren had refused, citing a full schedule. Hearing me say this, Ziren's handsome brows furrowed. "You're still in touch with him?" I was taken aback and guiltily mumbled an affirmation. Ziren lowered his gaze, let out a deep sigh, and said in a somewhat aggrieved tone, "After doing that to me, you're still in touch with others." Me. The more pitiful Ziren looked, the more frantic I felt. What did he mean? Doing that to him? Furious, I slammed the table. "What do you mean I did that to you?" That night, it was clearly. Ziren looked up at me, urging me to continue. Clearly what? Ziren's eyes were full of ambiguity and teasing. The ambiguity and intimacy of that night rushed back to stimulate my brain again. My face flushed bright red instantly. My fists clenched and I punched the table. Flustered and angry, I shouted, "You know perfectly well what it was." I stood up abruptly, turned, and walked into Ziren's bedroom. My clothes weren't dry, so I could only put on one of Ziren's t-shirts and a pair of trousers. I also borrowed his Armani coat, threw it on, and headed for the door. Ziren was still sitting at the dining table. "Where are you going?" I didn't stop walking, heading straight for the door. Home. Back to my own home. As I spoke, I reached for the door handle, but Ziren suddenly said, "Surenren, can't it be me?" My hand on the doorknob froze. What did he mean? I glanced back. Ziren was still sitting at the dining table, his back to me. For some reason, that figure from behind looked rather pitiful to me. I didn't understand what he meant. Right now, I just wanted to leave, so I casually mumbled an mm. I opened the door and walked out. The moment I closed it behind me, I heard the shattering sound of dishes being swept off the table. I felt I needed to create some distance between Ziren and myself. For a while after that, I didn't keep up with Ziren's schedule. When his agent asked, I said I was too busy with my own work to get away. After that incident, Ziren didn't come looking for me either. Previously, I had only felt a slight fondness for Peng Fei. I didn't mind going out to meals or movies alone with him. But we were still a long way from anything resembling an ambiguous relationship. Peng Fei fancied me, but he always lacked a certain something I was looking for. But now, wanting distance from Ziren meant I needed to meet other people. Peng Fei had always been the one to ask me out before, but now I started initiating plans with him too. Peng Fei was filming his new movie, with locations in Kunming. During breaks in shooting, he'd send me some scenic videos. They looked appealing, and coincidentally, I had a friend in Kunming. So, I packed my bags and boarded a plane to Kunming. Peng Fei was filming. For the first few days in Kunming, I just hung out with my friend. It wasn't until the third day that he had time to meet me for a meal. I brought my friend along. When we arrived at the restaurant, Peng Fei was already waiting. Ordering, waiting for the food. Peng Fei was the epitome of a gentleman throughout. Even my friend couldn't help but compliment him. Midway through, Peng Fei stepped out to take a call, and my friend started gossiping. "This Peng guy seems really nice." I put on a bashful act. "Oh, it's nothing definite yet." My friend hummed in agreement, then seemed to think of something. "But you know ... double quotes." "But what?" My friend first glanced through the glass window at Peng Fei outside. Then she lowered her voice. "I always kind of thought you'd end up with Ziren." Hearing Ziren's name made my heart skip a beat. I picked up my water glass and took a sip, hiding my fluster. "Him and me? Impossible. He's like a younger brother to me ... Before I could finish, she interrupted. "Theft. Calling someone a sibling without any blood relation is just being a rogue." I was instantly left speechless by her retort. "You two have known each other for 7 or 8 years now. All these years, you're together for work. And together when not working. Practically inseparable. Besides, that little Z is so good-looking, such a fine figure of a man. If you could land him, it'd be thanks to the virtues accumulated by your ancestors." Hearing this, I wasn't pleased. "I'm not too bad myself, you know." My friend rolled her eyes. "You're not bad at all. But if you miss out on little Z, it really will be your loss." I lowered my head, looking at the table, recalling all the little things between Ziren and me. Ziren and I definitely had feelings for each other, but they absolutely couldn't be romantic. My friend, however, said, "Do you remember that breakup you had 3 years ago?" My last relationship had ended 3 years ago. From my second year of university until 2 years after graduation, a full 4-year relationship. I thought it would lead to marriage. But in the end, I found out he'd been involved with multiple other girls behind my back. And he had a fiancée back in his hometown. They were about to get married. After I found out, I didn't sleep or eat for 3 days and nights, so broken I couldn't even cry. It was Ziren who stayed with me the whole time. Even ranting about wanting to chop that scumbag into pieces. He did actually beat up that scumbag later. But then nothing else seemed to happen. Who knew, my friend would say. He did more than just beat him up. When that scumbag got married in his hometown, Ziren took people to cause a scene. Because of that, he even got taken to the police station. Hearing my friend say this, I finally remembered. After that breakup, I was decadent for almost 3 months. Staying at home every day watching dramas. Cutting myself off from the outside world. Ziren would come to keep me company after work. But there was a period of over a week when he didn't come. When I finally got better and went back to work, I noticed he had a new black mark on his record. Something about getting into a fight with a couple. I didn't think much of it at the time, and the agent deliberately kept it from me. I assumed Ziren had fancied some girl. Found out she had a boyfriend. And that's why it happened. So, I even gave Ziren a good talking to. And now my friend was telling me that Ziren got taken to the station, back then because he went to teach my ex a lesson. I looked utterly unconvinced. My friend added, "The hot search about him being at the police station couldn't be suppressed, but he spent a fortune to hide the reason why he was there. Also, remember how your ex's business venture later failed spectacularly, leaving him with nothing? That was also little Z's handiwork." I was completely stunned. Ziren had done so much behind my back. No wonder when I went back for a class reunion later, that scumbag ex looked at me with teeth-gritting hatred but utter helplessness. I thought it was just my stunning beauty shocking him after years apart. Knowing what my friend had told me left me completely dazed. After Peng Fei returned, it was my friend who chatted with him. Peng Fei noticed I was out of it and asked what was wrong. My friend covered for me, saying I was having trouble with work. Peng Fei had filming tomorrow and I wasn't in the mood, so the meal ended early. Back at my friend's place, after washing up, I flopped onto the bed. I took out my phone and clicked into Ziren's WeChat. Our most recent chat was from a week ago. Truth be told, over the years I had felt my heart flutter for Ziren. Such a fine-looking lad who revolved only around you, who wouldn't feel a flutter. But the closer we became, the more impossible it seemed. Because we were too familiar, knew each other's habits inside out. 2 people lying in the same bed wouldn't raise eyebrows. I was also afraid. afraid that if I developed feelings and Z-Ren only saw me as a friend, it would make our relationship awkward. But looking at it now, did Z-Ren have different feelings for me too? I looked at my phone but didn't know what to send Z-Ren. Come to think of it, I'd been in Kunming for days and hadn't posted a single WeChat moments. Girls, when they want to catch a boy's attention, naturally need to post a WeChat moments. I put together a 9-square grid post of photos from my days in Kunming and posted it on Moments. Originally, I just wanted to brush up my presence online, see if Z-Ren would like it. But shortly after I posted, Peng Fei also posted a WeChat Moments. He posted just 2 pictures from the meal we just had. The 2 of us posting one after the other with the same pictures. Wasn't that basically telling everyone we had that meal together? I was contemplating whether to delete my post when, the next second, Z-Ren liked it. He not only liked mine, but also liked Peng Fei's. Great. Now it was completely impossible to explain. After liking the posts, Z-Ren didn't contact me. I wanted to explain to him that it was a meal for 3. But I typed the words, then felt it was inappropriate. On what grounds was I explaining? What if Z-Ren didn't care at all? Hesitating like this, I eventually fell asleep. The next day, while I was watching a movie with my friend, I got a call from Z-Ren's agent. He said Z-Ren had an accident on set and had been taken to the hospital. My heart sank, remembering the time he was filming an explosion scene. Due to the props team's mistake, he got injured by the blast. I couldn't watch the movie anymore. I bought a plane ticket and rushed back immediately. When the agent told me about Z-Ren's accident, he sent me a photo of the hospital. After getting off the plane, I headed straight there. But when I asked for Z-Ren's room, rushed in, I found Z-Ren lying in the hospital bed, eating watermelon fed by his assistant while playing a mobile game with his other hand. The agent heard the commotion and turned around. Seeing it was me, he looked like a cat caught red-handed. He looked at me, then at Z-Ren playing the game. Finally, in a panic, he grabbed the duvet from the bed and covered Z-Ren with it. The agent looked at me, cold sweat beading on his forehead. "Ran. How are you back so soon?" I knew exactly what was going on in an instant. The agent had sounded utterly distraught on the phone, making me think I wouldn't see Z-Ren whilst time if I was late. I had been running just moments ago and was only now catching my breath. After calming my breathing a bit, I walked over to Z-Ren's bed. The agent saw me but didn't dare stop me, silently moving aside. I reached out and pulled back the duvet, meeting Z-Ren's eyes directly. Z-Ren was guilty too. Maybe afraid I'd be angry, he lowered his head meekly. "I know it was wrong to lie to you, but you ran off to Kunming without telling me. I even took you with me when I went to Sunya for work before." The more he spoke, the more unsure he sounded, his voice growing softer. But I just looked at him calmly. The longer I stayed silent, the more Z-Ren's confidence wavered. Finally, he conceded. "Fine, go ahead and scold me." I looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "Where are you hurt?" Z-Ren was taken aback, as if he couldn't believe his ears. He looked at me in astonishment, then glanced at his assistant and agent for confirmation. I let out a deep breath. Running over had almost made me dizzy. I sat down on the chair by the bed before asking again. "I'm asking you, where are you hurt?" Only then did Z-Ren hold out his hand. He'd lost focus during filming, fell from a height, and fractured his wrist. After I arrived, the agent and assistant left. Z-Ren lay in bed and started complaining about the pain. I gave a dry laugh. "Weren't you just playing Honor of Kings?" Z-Ren lied blatantly. "The doctor said I should do other things to distract myself." Although this injury wasn't life-threatening, he'd hurt his right hand, so he couldn't hold chopsticks to eat. At mealtime, the assistant brought the food and then left. I opened the containers and placed them on the small table, telling Z-Ren to eat by himself. But Z-Ren just looked at me with pitiful eyes. He held up his bandage-braced right hand. "My hand's injured." It was true he couldn't use chopsticks with his right hand injured, but I pointed to the spoon on the table. "Use the spoon." Z-Ren looked down at the spoon. Just when I thought he'd obediently eat by himself, he suddenly reached out with his good hand, picked up the spoon from the table, and threw it into the bin. "Me." Z-Ren looked at me with a smile. "Now there's no spoon." "Perfect. This little brat was dead set on making me feed him. I had to compromise. But I could feed him for a while, not forever. As Ren was getting ready to be discharged, I said to him, "I'll hire a helper for you to take care of your daily needs." Ren, struggling to take off his hospital gown with one hand. "Hiring help is expensive." I gritted my teeth. A helper might cost 20 or 30,000 at most. He was a big star who earned 6 figures per appearance at the very least. And he thought hiring help was expensive. Me. "Are you planning to save all that money for your coffin?" Ren. "Well then, how about you be my helper? I'll pay you 30,000 a month." Me. Huh. As a screenwriter, I might not earn as much as him, but I'm a woman with 7-figure savings. Did he think 30,000 could buy me? I cleared my throat, my gaze firm. "Not unless it's 50,000. Ren. Deal." Me. Oh, that was too quick. I suspected I'd been scammed. The buttons on the hospital gown were tricky. Ren couldn't undo them with one hand. After trying a few times, he started getting frustrated. Seeing he was about to lose his temper, I stepped forward to help him with the buttons. Ren was startled and looked up at me. But I didn't dare meet his gaze, keeping my eyes fixed on his buttons. Ren lowered his hand and just watched me leisurely. His gaze was intense. Even without looking, I could feel its heat. His staring made my ears burn. We were close. I could even feel his breath. I grew flustered. So much so that when unbuttoning the last one, my hand trembled slightly, and it took a few tries. Ren noticed my embarrassment and actually let out a mischievous chuckle. After I undid the buttons, Ren simply took the gown off. His well-built physique was fully exposed before me. My face grew even hotter. Although I'd seen Ren's beautiful body long ago, back then I didn't allow any other thoughts to sprout. But this time was different. I couldn't help it. I shamefully swallowed hard. Ren noticed. He looked very pleased with himself. He hooked his shirt over with his uninjured left hand, but didn't put it on. Instead, openly showing off his physique. He said, "Satisfied with what you see?" Me? What kind of overbearing CEO novel line was that? Even though my mind was blank, my damn competitive spirit kept me awake enough. I pretended indifference with a snort, reached out a finger, and poked his chest muscle, putting on the act of a worldly older sister. Someone like you can only impress your little fans. For me, someone more manly suits my taste. You're too slim. Who knew Ren would say, "I'm not manly." I wonder who kept saying they couldn't take it that night, ... Shut up. Before Ren could finish, I pushed him in annoyance. Just then, his agent walked into the room from outside. I was so embarrassed I wanted to turn into a dumpling on the spot. I didn't know if the agent had heard or not. The situation was already awkward enough that the agent had no tact. He squinted, examining my face, and asked, "Ranron, why is your face so red?" Too guilty to look at Ren, I quickly said, "Probably just feeling hot. I'll go ask the nurse." And with that, I ran straight out of the hospital. In the end, the job of looking after Ren still fell on me. News of his injury had already broken. My parents saw the news about Ren's injury and called me in a frantic hurry. "That child Ren's parents aren't around. You have to take good care of him for us." After hanging up, my mum even sent a bunch of local specialty foods from our hometown. Standing in Ren's living room, looking at the pile of nourishing goods my mum sent, I felt unbalanced. Why don't I ever get this kind of treatment? I turned to look at Ren sitting on the sofa. "Are you their child, or am I?" Ren turned to look at me, looking quite smug. "Jealous? Marry me, and they'll treat you like their own daughter. Damn you and your ancestors. My own parents, and I have to compete for their affection." With my parents' orders, and Ren actually transferring 50,000 into my account as helper wages. No matter how unwilling I was, I had to start being Ren's live-in helper. Having known Ren for so many years, I was already very familiar with his habits. Generally, he kept people at a distance and wouldn't easily trouble others. But that was only under general circumstances. Under non-general circumstances, he was more demanding and forsyth than any woman. Like now, I cooked him congee and gave him a spoon, but he just refused to eat by himself. he said. It's hot. I gritted my teeth, suppressing my anger, forcing a smile. Then blow on it. But Ziren shook his head. I'm paying 50,000. Is it too much to ask you to blow on it for me? If you don't satisfy me, I'll report you for taking money and not doing the job. My fists clenched. Then I can also apply for labor arbitration. Even though Ziren was being difficult, I could still handle him. The place he lived in now was spacious. But he lived alone. I liked the decoration style of his place before, so I shamelessly asked him to set aside a room for me. Apart from taking care of Ziren's daily needs, I'd work on my scripts in my room. That night, I was in my room writing when Ziren went to bed early. A rainstorm suddenly started outside. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Even the lights in the house flickered slightly. I wasn't afraid of storms. In my teenage phase, I even thought lightning could transport me through time. I opened the curtains, admiring the storm. But as I watched, I suddenly remembered something. A mental "oh crap" went through my head. I turned and ran towards Ziren's room. Ziren had a habit when sleeping, keeping a small night light on. So when I opened the door, I saw Ziren curled up under the duvet, his whole body trembling. That's right. Ziren was afraid of thunder and lightning. I walked to his bedside and lifted a corner of the duvet. Ziren, are you okay? The moment I spoke, Ziren threw the duvet off. He was soaked in sweat, his expression pained. Before I could react, he grabbed my arm with his good hand and pulled me under the covers. Ziren wrapped his arm around my waist, burying his head against my stomach, like a small wounded animal seeking safety. I was stunned for a moment, then placed my hand on his back, gently soothing him. I first found out Ziren was afraid of thunder and lightning during an outdoor variety show he participated in when he was 19. The production team had originally planned for the guests to spend the night at a mountain campsite and watch the sunrise together the next morning. But that night, a rainstorm suddenly hit. At high altitude, surrounded by forest, the howling of the wind filled their ears. A flash of lightning struck, instantly illuminating the sky. While everyone else was marveling at the scene, I noticed Ziren's expression looked off. He silently went back to his room alone. When the cameraman tried to follow, he closed the door, shutting him out. The assistant director wanted to go in, but Ziren's angry shout came from inside the room. Everyone was stunned. In the end, it was only after I persuaded him for a long time that he let me in. In the room, the 19-year-old boy was wrapped in a blanket, huddled in a corner, his face pale, cold sweat beading at his temples. When I walked over to him, he just glanced at me. I crouched down to meet his eye level and asked, "Are you afraid of the thunder?" Ziren slowly shook his head, but then another clap of thunder sounded, and his whole body began to tremble uncontrollably. I didn't press further. Instead, I found another blanket. I wrapped myself up like Ziren, and then sat down beside him. I didn't ask him why he was afraid of thunder. Instead, I told him many things about myself. Eventually, Ziren probably felt that after hearing so many of my secrets, it wouldn't be fair not to share his own. So he voluntarily told me about his fear of thunder. When he was very young, his parents often fought. Several times during thunderstorms, his parents would argue and smash things outside. He'd hide under the covers, crying, not even daring to make a sound. The final time his parents separated was also on a stormy night. During their fight, they smashed everything in the house. He was huddled under the blanket in a corner. Outside the door were the sounds of his parents arguing and breaking things. Outside the window were flashes of lightning and thunder. These things slowly shredded his sense of security. He didn't know how much time had passed when the noise outside his room finally stopped. Thinking his parents' fight was over, he opened the door to look, but all he saw was a scene of devastation. The open door revealing the pitch-black night outside, the wind slamming the door back and forth. His parents divorced after that fight. They both left, leaving him behind alone. When he got to this part, Ziren's eyes grew slightly red. His voice was a bit choked. "So it's not that I'm afraid of thunder... He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood what he meant. He wasn't afraid of thunder. He was afraid of his family falling apart. Fortunate people are healed by their childhoods their whole lives. Unfortunate people spend their whole lives healing from their childhoods. Ziren was the latter. 8-year-old Z Ren experienced that misfortune. Later, 19-year-old Z Ren, 24-year-old Z Ren, were all healing from that misfortune. Even though he took melatonin before bed, Z Ren was still affected by the thunder. He held on to me tightly. I was worried his injured hand would get pressed, so I tried to shift my position, but he only held me tighter. Sleeping in this position made me very uncomfortable. It wasn't until the latter half of the night, when Z Ren calmed down a bit, that I managed to sleep for a few hours. When I woke up in the morning, Z Ren was still asleep. My back ached from sleeping like that all night. I wanted to push him away and go back to my own room to sleep, but the moment I touched his body, I froze. He had a fever. It started with just a right-hand injury. Unable to dress or sleep properly. Now, great, he was completely limp and unconscious. Lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I felt my career as a helper was off to a rather difficult start. I struggled free, got him an ice pack, and found a thermometer to take his temperature. If it was serious, I might need to call a doctor. While I was taking his temperature, Peng Fei called me. I answered sitting by the bed, thinking I'd finish the call around the time the thermometer was done. Peng Fei's film was almost finished. He said the wrap party would be in a few days, and asked if I wanted to come and join the fun. These kinds of events, all called joining the fun, are really for networking. The screenwriter for this film was one I really admired. If I went, maybe I could get their contact info. But I glanced back at Z Ren lying in bed, frowning. Hesitantly, I said, I'd really like to go, but I might not have time recently. Peng Fei was still enthusiastically inviting me. It's fine. You could just come for an hour or so. That's all. An hour? Could I go while Z Ren was asleep? I was still thinking when an arm suddenly reached out from behind me. It grabbed my neck and pulled me back, making me fall onto the bed. The next moment, Z Ren, who had been feverish and asleep, suddenly rolled over and pinned me down. My phone fell to one side and Z Ren's hand swept it off the bed. He pinned my shoulders with his one good hand and I couldn't move. Because of the fever, his gaze was somewhat unfocused. Z Ren? I looked at him, unsure what this action meant. The sound of the phone hitting the floor was heard by Peng Fei on the other end. Ran? Did you bump into the table? Just as I was about to answer, Z Ren suddenly kissed me. His body temperature was elevated from the fever. When his soft lips touched mine, my body went limp. Peng Fei, not hearing my reply, called my name a few more times over the phone. But I was already being kissed senseless by Z Ren. Z Ren, weakened by the fever, didn't have much strength. After kissing me, he just collapsed, resting his head on my shoulder. He nuzzled against me, sounding aggrieved. Don't go. That's when I came to my senses. I quickly pushed Z Ren away, rolled off the bed and picked up my phone. I'm fine, my phone just fell under the bed. I'll think about the wrap party and call you when I decide. After hanging up with Peng Fei, I turned to see Z Ren lying in bed, looking at me. Previously, because Z Ren was drunk and that happened between us, I kept hiding. But now, like this, I couldn't hide anymore. The things Z Ren was doing now, and the things he'd done before without my knowledge, all made me uncertain about his true feelings towards me. Z Ren, I began. Do you like me? Do you like me? Z Ren probably didn't expect me to ask so directly. He was stunned for a moment before nodding. Yes, although his voice was soft, his tone was firm. I remained calm. The kind of liking between boyfriend and girlfriend. The kind where you want to be each other's only partner. Having gotten my answer, I asked again. You sure? Z Ren couldn't help but frown. Su Ren, I'm not a child. I know what my feelings are. But I'm afraid it's just temporary for you. I interrupted him. We've known each other for 7 years. In these 7 years, even when I was in a relationship, I spent more time doing things with you than with my boyfriend. We've been through so much together. I feel that our relationship is stronger, more solid than that of boyfriend and girlfriend. Z Ren didn't speak. I continued, most of our social circles overlap. Yes, if the two of us got together, many people will bless us. But what if we break up later? Our circles, our friends, our shared work. Could it all continue? To be honest, my previous relationship left me hurt. So now, When someone confesses to me, my first thought is what if we break up later? If it was someone else, like Peng Fei, breaking up would just mean cutting contact. But not with Ziren. I couldn't break up with Ziren. So I'd rather choose the stronger, though slightly more distant, bond of friendship than the closer, but potentially fragile, bond of lovers. I said, Ziren, think about this question properly too. Think about our future. After saying all that, I finished taking Ziren's temperature. 38.2 degrees Celsius. I called his agent, said I had something to do, and asked the agent to bring a doctor over. I went back to my own place, intending to finish the rest of my script. But my mind was full of thoughts about Ziren. I couldn't write at all. I stayed home for 2 days. The agent called to say Ziren's fever had broken, that his state wasn't good, and he hoped I'd visit. I refused, and was about to hang up. But then I thought of something else and asked, say, if Ziren announced a relationship in the future, would you, as his agent, have a massive headache? I was just trying to prepare him. Who knew the agent would immediately say, headache or not, the day you and Ziren get together, I'll be your #1 CP fan. Me. I almost choked on my own saliva. How did you know? My interactions with Ziren were always normal. Why did it feel like everyone around us knew something was up between us? The agent chuckled lightly. In a tone that said, I have everything under control, he said, the way you two interact. Isn't it just the daily interaction pattern of a young couple? I felt very guilty about the agent's statement. I was distracted these past few days. So regarding Peng Fei's invitation to the rap party, I hadn't explicitly refused. When the day of the rap party arrived, Peng Fei told me to get ready, saying he'd pick me up downstairs, and only then did I belatedly realize. At this point, I couldn't refuse anymore. But when I walked into the rap party venue on his arm, I immediately regretted it. What was my identity here? I'd said I was just joining the fun, so I should have kept a low profile. Now, walking in so conspicuously on the director's arm, everyone would think I was Peng Fei's girlfriend. And when others misunderstood my relationship with Peng Fei, he didn't deny it either. This gave me a headache. But what gave me an even bigger headache wasn't that. Halfway through the rap party, a woman with a small child suddenly burst in. They were there for Peng Fei. But when the woman saw me standing next to Peng Fei, she immediately threw a glass of red wine at me. Security rushed forward, and the scene descended into chaos. Amid the woman's hysterical roar, I learned the whole story. That woman was Peng Fei's wife. No, his ex-wife. She'd had 2 children for Peng Fei, but because they were both girls, Peng Fei divorced her, and even schemed to leave her with nothing. The ex-wife had no choice but to cause a scene here. Someone called the police, and the police took Peng Fei and his ex-wife to the station. As someone who got caught up in it, I naturally was taken along too. At the police station, Peng Fei's ex-wife held her child, crying and wailing. Peng Fei, however, was nothing like the gentle, refined man I knew. He looked at the woman with disgust, as if she were a stranger. The police officer asked me, "What is your relationship with Mr. Peng?" I looked away and said, "Just ordinary friends. I only came to the rap party today because I couldn't refuse the invitation." After I spoke, other crew members vouched for me, so I was allowed to leave early. As I was leaving, I looked at Peng Fei's ex-wife and her child. Perhaps because I'd been hurt in love myself, I could empathize more easily. I took out a business card and gave it to Peng Fei's ex-wife. "If you need help later, you can contact me. I have quite a few friends who are lawyers." I went home, feeling even worse. My mood was already affected by Ziren these past few days, and now this happened. Lying in bed, I opened Ziren's chat window. But I didn't know what to send him. "I really miss you." This was the first time I had expressed my feelings for Ziren is so naked. I told Ziren to think it over clearly, but secretly, I hoped more that he would say he wanted to be with me, that he wouldn't leave me. I did like Ziren. I was just afraid that if we broke up, we wouldn't even be able to remain friends. I was here thinking about Ziren, but he didn't even send me a message. Instead, Peng Fei showed up at my door almost at midnight. When he knocked, I thought it was Ziren, and ran to open the door without even putting on slippers. But the person outside was Peng Fei. I was taken aback. "What are you doing here?" I stood blocking the doorway. Peng Fei looked embarrassed but stepped forward. Ranran, I came to explain. Her and we divorced a long time ago. Hearing him say that, I immediately took a step back, wanting to close the door. There's nothing to discuss between us. You hid it from me from the start. You should have thought about what would happen when I found out the truth. Besides, even without this, Peng Fei and I would never have worked out. But Peng Fei grabbed the doorframe. I really wanted to slam the door shut, but that could be considered the crime of intentional injury. I chickened out. I pushed against the door. It wouldn't close, but I wouldn't let him in either. What do you actually want? Ranran, my feelings for you are sincere. I liked you from the moment I first saw you. And her and we really haven't been in contact for a long time. I hated it when men talked about sincere feelings. I rolled my eyes. I don't want to hear any of this. Please leave immediately, or I'll call the police. I'd been that blunt, but Peng Fei still refused to leave. He even pushed against the door harder, trying to get in. Just as we were in a stalemate, rapid footsteps suddenly echoed in the hallway. Before I could react, Ziren's figure appeared in my sight. He strode over. Without even stopping properly, he shoved Peng Fei's hand off the doorframe. Then he stepped right past him and into my flat. As he entered, one of his hands was still bandaged. With the other, he closed the door. Startled, I stepped back. After closing the door, he reached out, grabbed the collar of my top and pulled me back into his arms. He looked down and asked, "Are you okay?" I'm fine." I calmed my racing heart and asked, "How did you get here?" "I have friends who were at the rap party." That explained it. I was about to say something else when I heard the agent's voice outside. Peng Fei, probably seeing others arrive and feeling embarrassed, left. After Peng Fei left, I wanted to open the door for the agent. But Ziren grabbed me and kissed me without another word. The agent was still standing right outside the door, just separated by a door. I could still hear the agent's footsteps. A natural sense of shame immediately washed over me from all sides. Ziren's kiss was intensely dominant. He held the back of my head with his one good hand. Lack of air made my eyes grow damp. In the heat of his kiss, I closed my eyes and kissed him back. The agent outside seemed to guess what was happening inside. He stood at the door for a moment before leaving. I don't know how much time passed before Ziren finally let me go. I was like someone who had almost lost consciousness, slumped against Ziren's shoulder. Ziren's hand gently stroked the back of my head. "Ranran, I've thought about it. I've thought it through very clearly." He said, "I want to be with you. We are friends, family, lovers. We won't separate." Hearing the answer I'd hoped for, a wave of heat suddenly surged in my heart. Then my eyes stung and tears fell. I sobbed against his shoulder. Ziren was stunned. He quickly let go of me, looking at a loss. "What's wrong? What happened? Did I hurt you?" I shook my head but was too choked up to speak. Ziren was about to say something else when I simply cupped his face, stood on my tiptoes, and kissed him. Ziren's body stiffened for a second, but he quickly reacted and kissed me back joyfully. Later, I discovered Ziren's diary at his place and found out this kid had had improper thoughts about me since he was 18. He wrote in his diary, "Originally my life was bleak, until one day, someone broke into my life. They brought color to my originally desolate, grey world. I want a love that flows like a gentle stream, lasting for a long time. I don't want to end up like my parents, with nothing but trivial matters after love fades. When I'm capable of giving her stable happiness, I will confess." I was reading the diary when Ziren hugged me from behind. I held up the diary. "You little... So you were plotting against me for a long time." Ziren saw the diary in my hand and hurriedly tried to snatch it back. I deliberately teased him, running around the room with the diary, laughing. "TSK, you were acting all cool in front of me, saying you didn't like me. Now that I've found out, your family status has dropped even further. From now on, you'll only have the of being under my thumb." Before I could finish, Ziren pounced. He grabbed the diary from me with one hand. With his other hand, he pinned me down. He was on top of me, looking down at me from above. He smirked. "Who's under whose thumb, Gigi? Damn it." Before, when I wanted him to call me older sister, he wouldn't. Now, in private, he was calling me that happily. I tried to turn over and leave, but he held me down firmly. Ren casually tossed the diary onto the bedside table, then started unbuttoning his shirt with his one good hand. He looked at me and smiled, his eyes seemingly filled with honey. I heard it's riskier for women to have children after they turn 30. I'm only 27. My face burned with embarrassment. Before, when he was filming, I teased him about his stamina. But after getting together, I realized a younger man is still a younger man. The earlier the safer. After saying that, he leaned over. The cabbage I raised myself could only silently let him have his way. My heart felt bitter, but I wouldn't say it out loud.